Ryan Carter wasn't one to dwell on what could have been. At 36, he had learned to focus on what was on the here and now. His days were filled with fixing cars at a small-town garage. His nights spent tucking his 8-year-old son, Jake, into bed. Life hadn't been kind to Ryan since losing his wife, Claire, 2 years earlier to an illness that came without warning. But even through the grief, he found purpose in raising Jake and doing whatever it took to give him a stable life. Their home was modest, a 2-bedroom house tucked into the corner of Maple Ridge, a quiet town where everyone knew each other by name. The walls were adorned with Jake's colorful drawings, and the furniture was mismatched but functional. Money was tight, but Ryan didn't let it show. To Jake, their little house felt like a castle, and Ryan was its fearless protector. One bitterly cold winter evening, as Ryan drove home from work along the winding back roads of Maple Ridge, snow blanketed the ground, muffling the world outside. Frost clung to the edges of his windshield, and the heater in his old truck struggled to keep up with the biting chill. He turned down a narrow lane shortcutting through town when movement caught his eye, a huddled figure beneath the flickering glow of a street lamp. As he slowed his truck, Ryan saw a woman sitting on the curb, clutching 2 young girls close to her side. All 3 were wrapped in threadbare blankets, their faces pale and drawn, their breaths visible in the freezing air. The girls looked identical, twins, no older than 6 or 7, and they trembled violently, their tiny bodies frail and fragile. Ryan pulled over abruptly, stepping out into the cold. "Are you okay?" he called, his voice firm despite the chaos inside him. "Do you need help?" The woman looked up, her eyes wide with exhaustion and fear, but also a flicker of hope. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We're so hungry and cold." Ryan didn't hesitate. He opened the passenger door of his truck. "Get in. You can't stay out here." The woman hesitated for a moment before nodding, helping the twins climb into the warm interior. As Ryan slid back behind the wheel, he glanced at them in the rearview mirror. "I'm Ryan," he said gently. "What's your name?" "Sarah," the woman replied softly. "And these are my daughters, Mia and Lily." Ryan nodded, focusing on the road ahead. "You're safe now. We'll get you somewhere warm." When they arrived at his modest home, Jake was already asleep, curled up under his favorite blanket. Ryan led Sarah and the twins inside, handing them blankets and making hot cocoa while they warmed up by the space heater. Sarah clutched the mug tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what we would have done." "You don't have to thank me," Ryan replied firmly. "Just rest. We'll figure things out tomorrow." As he closed the door to the spare room where Sarah and the twins settled in for the night, Ryan leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. He didn't know much about this woman or the danger she might bring into their lives, but he did know one thing. He couldn't turn his back on someone in need, not when he had the power to help. Little did Ryan know, this act of kindness would ripple far beyond that stormy night, setting into motion a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of Ryan's modest home, casting a warm glow over the kitchen table. Ryan sat sipping coffee while Jake munched on cereal, glancing curiously at Sarah as she entered the room with Mia and Lily trailing behind her. The girls clung to her legs, their wide eyes taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. "Good morning," Ryan said warmly, breaking the silence. "How did you sleep?" Sarah managed a small smile, though fatigue lingered in her expression. "Better than I have in weeks. Thank you for everything." Ryan nodded, gesturing for her to sit. "You're welcome here for as long as you need. We'll figure things out together." Jake piped up, his curiosity overtaking his shyness. "Are they staying with us forever?" he asked, pointing to the twins. Ryan chuckled softly. "We'll see, buddy. For now, let's just focus on helping them feel at home." Mia and Lily exchanged shy glances before Jake grinned at them. "Wanna play Legos? I've got a whole box." The twins hesitated, looking to their mother for approval. When Sarah nodded encouragingly, they followed Jake into the living room, giggling as he showed them his collection of mismatched blocks. Their laughter filled the house, a sound Ryan hadn't realized he'd missed until now. As days turned into weeks, Sarah began settling into their routine. She helped around the house, cooking meals and tidying up while Ryan worked long hours at the garage. In return, Ryan ensured she had everything she needed: warm clothes, groceries, and even rides to nearby stores when necessary. Though hesitant at first, Sarah slowly opened up about her past. One evening, as they sat together folding laundry, Sarah sighed deeply. "I left him because he was hurting us," she admitted quietly. "My husband. He didn't care about anyone but himself. I couldn't let him hurt Mia and Lily anymore." Ryan clenched his fists under the table, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. "You made the right choice," he said firmly. "No one deserves to live like that. Not you, not your girls." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, but she blinked them away, nodding gratefully. "Thank you for believing me, for giving us a chance." "You don't need my belief," Ryan replied softly. "Just your own strength." Despite the warmth growing between them, life wasn't easy. Feeding 5 people stretched Ryan's budget to its limits. Some nights, he skipped dinner entirely, claiming he wasn't hungry while secretly nibbling on crackers after everyone else had gone to bed. His worn-out shoes developed holes, and his jacket grew threadbare, but he never complained. To Ryan, providing for the kids, even if it meant sacrificing his own comfort, was worth every hardship. Neighbors began noticing the changes in Ryan's household. Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who lived down the hall, knocked on their door one evening carrying a casserole dish. "Heard you've got your hands full these days," she said with a kind smile. "Thought you might need a little help." Ryan accepted the meal gratefully, inviting her inside. As the twins eagerly introduced themselves, Mrs. Thompson's expression softened. "You're doing something remarkable, Ryan. Not everyone would open their home like this." "I'm just doing what anyone else would do," Ryan replied humbly, though deep down, he knew it wasn't entirely true. Many people would have walked away, or turned Sarah and the twins over to social services without a second thought. But Ryan couldn't imagine abandoning them, no matter how difficult things got. Still, doubts lingered at the edges of his mind. Friends and acquaintances occasionally voiced concerns. "You're already stretched thin, Ryan," his coworker Mark warned during a lunch break. "Taking in 3 more people? That's a lot of responsibility." "I know," Ryan admitted, staring into his coffee cup. "But what choice did I have? They needed someone, and I couldn't say no." Mark shook his head, impressed despite himself. "You're a better man than I am, buddy." Life became chaotic but joyful as the family settled into their new routine. Jake quickly warmed to the twins, treating them like sisters who could share his toys and secrets. He taught them how to ride bikes, helped them practice reading, and even shared his favorite comic books. In return, the girls adored him, often giggling as they chased him around the apartment or begged him to play hide and seek. For Ryan, seeing his son embrace this new responsibility filled him with pride and a renewed sense of hope. The laughter echoing through their tiny home reminded him of the joy Claire had brought into their lives. Though her absence still lingered, Sarah's presence softened the edges of his grief, filling the void with warmth and love. But the challenges were far from over. Feeding 5 growing children stretched Ryan's budget thinner than ever. Some nights, he skipped meals entirely, claiming he wasn't hungry while secretly nibbling on crackers after everyone else had gone to bed. His worn-out shoes developed holes, and his jacket grew threadbare, but he never complained. To Ryan, providing for the kids, even if it meant sacrificing his own comfort, was worth every hardship. One afternoon, as Ryan tinkered under the hood of an old sedan at work, his mind drifted to Sarah. She was strong, stronger than most people realized, but he couldn't shake the fear that her ex-husband might come looking for her. The thought gnawed at him, keeping him awake at night and making him hyper-vigilant during the day. When he returned home that evening, he found Sarah sitting on the porch with Jake and the twins, laughing as they tried and failed to teach her how to skip stones across a puddle left by last night's rain. For a moment, Ryan allowed himself to imagine a different future, one where Sarah stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she wanted to be part of their family. But reality intruded quickly. As they ate dinner together, Sarah tensed suddenly, glancing out the window. "Do you ever get visitors driving slowly past your house?" she asked quietly. Ryan frowned. "Not usually." "Why?" She hesitated, gripping her fork tightly. "I saw a car earlier. It slowed down near the driveway, like it was watching us." Ryan's stomach churned. He hadn't noticed anything unusual, but he knew better than to dismiss her instincts. "Don't worry," he assured her. "If anyone comes near you, they'll have to deal with me first." Though his words were meant to comfort her, they did little to ease the unease hanging over the house. In the weeks that followed, Ryan took extra precautions to ensure Sarah's safety. He installed motion sensor lights around the property, coordinated with neighbors to keep an eye out for suspicious activity, and even reached out to a local lawyer specializing in domestic abuse cases. Slowly but surely, they built a fortress, not of walls, but of trust, loyalty, and mutual support. Through it all, their bond deepened. Sarah admired Ryan's quiet strength and unwavering compassion, while Ryan found solace in her resilience and determination to rebuild her life. Even Jake seemed to thrive under the newfound stability, eagerly anticipating the arrival of baby Claire. Little did they know the greatest challenge and miracle was still ahead. It was a quiet evening when Sarah finally broke down. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within her as she sat at the kitchen table with Ryan, clutching a mug of tea tightly. Jake and the twins were already asleep upstairs, leaving the two of them alone in the dimly lit room. "I need to tell you everything," she began, her voice trembling, "about my husband, and why he'll never stop looking for us." Ryan listened intently, his jaw tightening as Sarah revealed the full extent of her ex-husband's cruelty. He wasn't just abusive. He was deeply entangled in illegal activities, gambling debts, stolen goods, and even ties to organized crime. Selling Emily had been his last desperate attempt to settle his mounting debts. But it wouldn't end there. If he found her, he'd kill her, or worse, take the girls to sell or use as leverage. "He thinks I'm worthless," Sarah admitted, tears streaming down her face. "But Mia and Lily, they're worth something to him, to them." Ryan's heart ached for her, but his resolve hardened. "He won't touch either of you, not while I'm around." Her gratitude was palpable, though fear still lingered in the back of her mind. For now, she focused on the present. The laughter of Jake upstairs, the comforting hum of domestic life, and the steady support Ryan offered without question. The next day, danger arrived on their doorstep. A private investigator hired by David knocked loudly, demanding entry. When Ryan answered, the man sneered, holding up a document. "Your tenant needs to come with me. Legal matters to settle." Ryan blocked the doorway, his expression steely. "She's not going anywhere. And even if she were, it's none of your business." The investigator smirked, clearly unimpressed. "This isn't your fight, mechanic. Stay out of it unless you want trouble." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a sense of foreboding. That night, Ryan shared the encounter with Sarah, who grew visibly pale. "They found us," she whispered, her hands trembling. "David must have sent them." Ryan clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Then we'll fight back. Together." They hired Lisa Chun, a local attorney specializing in domestic abuse cases, to help file for legal protection against David. Meanwhile, Ryan reached out to friends and neighbors, gathering testimonies about the loving environment Sarah now thrived in. Neighbors agreed to keep watch, forming a protective barrier around their home. One evening, as they worked side by side compiling evidence, Sarah looked at Ryan with gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly, "for doing all this, for believing in us." "I believe in you," Ryan replied, his gaze steady. "And I believe in Mia and Lily. They deserve a real family, one built on love, not fear." Their late-night conversations stretched longer than intended, filled with shared dreams and tentative confessions. One night, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Sarah rested her head on Ryan's shoulder without thinking. When she realized what she'd done, She pulled back abruptly, cheeks flushing. "Sorry," she stammered. "No, it's fine," Ryan replied, his tone gentle. "I don't mind." Their eyes met briefly, unspoken emotions passing between them. Neither acted on the moment, but it hung in the air like a promise, something neither was ready to name yet. Meanwhile, little moments hinted at deeper connections forming between Ryan and Sarah. He admired her quiet strength, the way she carried herself despite everything she'd endured. She, in turn, appreciated his unwavering kindness and selflessness, qualities she hadn't encountered in years. Late-night conversations stretched longer than intended, filled with shared dreams and tentative confessions. One night, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Sarah rested her head on Ryan's shoulder without thinking. When she realized what she'd done, she pulled back abruptly, cheeks flushing. "Sorry," she stammered. "No, it's fine," Ryan replied, his tone gentle. "I don't mind." Their eyes met briefly, unspoken emotions passing between them. Neither acted on the moment, but it hung in the air like a promise, something neither was ready to name yet. However, not all was peaceful. A few days later, Ryan noticed a black sedan parked across the street, its engine idling as two men loitered nearby. Suspicion prickled at the back of his neck, and he stepped outside to confront them. "Can I help you?" he asked sharply, crossing his arms. One of the men smirked, stepping forward. "We're looking for someone, a woman named Sarah. Heard she might be staying here." "She's not," Ryan lied smoothly, his tone icy. "And even if she were, it's none of your business." The man's smirk faltered, replaced by a glare. "This isn't over." With that, they climbed back into the car and drove off, leaving behind a sense of foreboding. Ryan clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. He wouldn't let them, or anyone else, threaten Sarah and her daughters. Not while he still drew breath. That night, as he tucked Jake into bed, Ryan found Sarah waiting for him in the hallway. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her voice was steady. "Thank you," she whispered, "for protecting me, for believing in me." Ryan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're in this together, Sarah. No matter what." Their eyes met briefly, unspoken emotions passing between them. Neither acted on the moment, but it hung in the air like a promise, something neither was ready to name yet. In the weeks that followed, Ryan took extra precautions to ensure Sarah's safety. He installed motion sensor lights around the property, coordinated with neighbors to keep an eye out for suspicious activity, and even reached out to a local lawyer specializing in domestic abuse cases. Slowly but surely, they built a fortress, not of walls, but of trust, loyalty, and mutual support. Through it all, their bond deepened. Sarah admired Ryan's quiet strength and unwavering compassion, while Ryan found solace in her resilience and determination to rebuild her life. Even Jake seemed to thrive under the newfound stability, eagerly anticipating the arrival of baby Claire. Little did they know the greatest challenge and miracle was still ahead. One chilly afternoon, as Ryan tinkered under the hood of a car at the garage, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He wiped his greasy hands on a rag and answered cautiously. "Hello, is this Ryan Carter?" A deep, authoritative voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Richard Whitmore," the man replied. "I'm Sarah's father." Ryan froze, his heart pounding. He'd heard fragments of Sarah's story about her estranged family but never imagined they'd reach out like this. "Mr. Whitmore, how did you find me?" "I hired a private investigator," Richard admitted, his tone softening slightly. "After hearing rumors about my daughter's situation, I had to know if she was safe. Can we meet? Please, it's important." Ryan hesitated, unsure whether involving Sarah's father was wise. But something in Richard's voice, a mix of desperation and guilt, convinced him to agree. "Let me talk to Sarah first. If she's okay with it, we'll arrange something." That evening, Ryan broached the subject carefully with Sarah. They sat together in the living room after putting the kids to bed, the fire casting flickering shadows on the walls. "Your dad called today," Ryan began gently. "He wants to meet you," and apologize for everything that happened. Sarah stiffened, her expression guarded. Why now? After all these years? He says he regrets abandoning you, Ryan explained. And when he heard what you've been through, well, he wants to make amends. For a long moment, Sarah said nothing, staring into the flames. Finally, she sighed deeply. I don't know if I can forgive him, Ryan, but maybe I owe it to Mia and Lily to hear him out. The meeting took place 2 days later at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. Richard arrived first, pacing nervously near the entrance. When Sarah walked in with Ryan by her side, the older man's face crumpled with emotion. Sarah, he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. You look just like your mother. Sarah crossed her arms, her stance defensive. What do you want, Dad? Richard swallowed hard, clearly struggling to find the right words. I want to say I'm sorry for cutting you off, for letting pride get in the way of being a father. I thought I was protecting our family's reputation when you married against my wishes, but all I did was push you away. And now, seeing what you've endured. His voice broke, and he reached out tentatively, only to drop his hand when Sarah flinched. I can't undo the past, he continued hoarsely. But I want to help you now, to provide for you and the girls, and to support Ryan, who's done more for you than I ever could. Sarah blinked back tears, her emotions warring between anger and longing. How do I know this isn't just guilt talking? That you won't disappear again once things settle down? You don't, Richard admitted honestly. All I can do is prove myself to you, to the girls, and to Ryan. Please, let me try. After a tense silence, Sarah nodded reluctantly. Okay, but on one condition. This doesn't change anything between me and Ryan. He's been there for us when no one else was, including you. Richard nodded solemnly. Understood. Over the following weeks, Richard kept his word. Through anonymous donations, he paid off Ryan's mounting debts, funded Jake's education, and even helped renovate their modest home to accommodate the growing family. New furniture arrived, the kitchen was updated, and insulation was added to keep the house warm during harsh winters. Each gift came with a simple note, for my grandchildren, and for the man who saved them. Ryan discovered the gifts gradually, stunned by the generosity but humbled by the realization that kindness creates ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine. One evening, as he stood in the newly remodeled kitchen watching Sarah bake cookies with the twins, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not for the material wealth, but for the second chance at happiness it represented. This is incredible, Sarah murmured, looking around the transformed space. I never dreamed we'd have something like this. It's not about the stuff, Ryan replied softly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. It's about what it means, stability, security, a fresh start. For all of us. Sarah leaned into him, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think we deserve it? After everything. Ryan kissed the top of her head, smiling faintly. We deserve peace, Em. All of us do. As spring approached, the family celebrated their newfound stability with a backyard barbecue. Neighbors gathered to admire the renovations, and Jake proudly showed off his new bike, a gift from Richard. The twins giggled as they chased bubbles in the sunlight, while Sarah and Ryan shared quiet moments of connection amidst the chaos. At one point, Richard joined them, holding a glass of lemonade. Thank you for letting me be part of this, he said sincerely, gesturing to the lively scene before them. I may not have earned it yet, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to. Ryan extended his hand, shaking Richard's firmly. Welcome to the family. Months had passed since Richard Whitmore re-entered Sarah's life, bringing with him not just financial stability but also a renewed sense of hope. The once modest home was now a warm, welcoming haven filled with laughter and light. Yet, despite the improvements, it wasn't the material changes that defined their happiness. It was the bond they'd forged through shared struggles and triumphs. One evening, as Ryan and Sarah sat together on the porch watching the sunset, she turned to him with a thoughtful expression. Do you ever think about how different things might have been if you hadn't found us that night? Ryan smiled faintly, reaching for her hand. All the time. But honestly, I don't want to imagine it any other way. You and the girls. You've given me something I didn't know I needed. And what's that? She asked softly. A second chance, he replied. At love, family, at believing that good things can still happen, even after everything we've lost. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she leaned into him. You've given me the same thing, Ryan. A reason to keep going. To believe in happy endings again. Their quiet moment was interrupted by Jake bursting through the door, Mia and Lily trailing behind him. Dad! Mom! He called excitedly, holding up a drawing he'd made earlier that day. Look what we did! The picture depicted the entire blended family standing hand in hand beneath a rainbow, with the words, Our Forever Family, scrawled across the top. Ryan chuckled, pinning it proudly to the fridge beside other artwork. This is amazing, buddy. Thanks. Jake grinned mischievously, nudging Mia. Guess you're stuck with us now. Mia laughed, throwing a crumpled napkin at him. Good thing you're fun, Jake. Their playful banter filled the room, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that had once loomed over them. For now, though, they were safe together, and that was enough. As weeks turned into months, Ryan and Sarah grew closer, realizing they'd found something neither thought possible. A partnership built on trust, mutual respect, and unconditional love. One crisp spring morning, as they worked side by side planting vegetables in the backyard garden, Sarah looked up at Ryan thoughtfully. Do you think we'll always be this happy? Ryan knelt beside her, brushing dirt from his hands. I think we'll always have challenges, but we'll face them together. That's what makes us strong. Her eyes widened with relief, and she threw her arms around him. Thank you, Ryan, for everything. He hugged her back tightly, whispering, Don't thank me yet. We've still got weeds to pull. That summer, surrounded by friends, family, and neighbors, Ryan and Sarah exchanged vows in a small ceremony held in their newly landscaped backyard. Jake served as the ring bearer, while Mia and Lily scattered flower petals down the aisle. As Ryan slipped the simple gold band onto Sarah's finger, he whispered, Forever and always. Forever and always, she echoed, tears streaming down her face. The reception was a joyous affair, filled with laughter, music, and countless stories of how far they'd come. Richard gave a heartfelt toast, raising his glass to the couple. To Ryan and Sarah, two people who remind us all that love conquers fear, kindness changes lives, and families aren't defined by blood, but by the bonds we choose to nurture. Cheers erupted from the crowd as the newlyweds shared their first dance under twinkling string lights. Jake and the twins joined them midway, spinning and laughing until they collapsed in a heap on the grass. Years later, as Ryan stood on the porch watching Jake teach Mia and Lily how to ride bikes, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What started as a single act of kindness on a cold winter night had blossomed into something extraordinary. A family rooted in resilience, love, and gratitude. Sarah joined him, resting her head on his shoulder. What are you thinking about? How lucky I am, he replied simply. To have you, to have them, to have this. She smiled, squeezing his hand. Me too. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the yard, Ryan realized the truth. Miracles weren't fleeting moments. They were ongoing journeys, fueled by love, sacrifice, and the unshakable belief that humanity could rise above adversity. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and dreams of brighter tomorrows, they walked inside together, ready to embrace whatever the future held.